And I'm Lisa.
And this is the Paid Media Playbook, where we talk to marketing professionals about their challenges, tactics, and triumphs.
Join us here at Double Z Media for weekly conversations about media strategies for marketing leaders.
Hello, welcome, Michael Flynn. Michael works at 12 Point. Michael, thank you for coming today. Tell us a little bit about 12 Point.
Yeah, so 12 Points is really a launch organization. So we are a startup. We have been in, I'll say, stealth mode. I am right now the only employee at 12 Points. It's a marketing umbrella organization that our owner decided to launch. And my job is to essentially not only go to market and build new clients for all of the companies within our portfolio. And there's basically five companies that we own that do print and promotion and marketing services, but to help individually each of those companies to cross-sell as well. You know, the majority of our clients, they don't know, they've never heard of 12 Points because nobody's heard of 12 Points. And so we've got kind of a launch to go to them and say, hey, we're a part of this organization called 12 Points. So, you know, their communication coming from AAA or from Quality Press or from PMA are going to basically be able to say, hey, this is what we do now, but we're actually part of a bigger family of companies and we have a lot more resources available to you than we've told you in the past. And so that's kind of what's going to be going on. And you're going to hear more from us than you've heard from us in the past, which is zero.
Yeah. So how did you get started, first of all, in print? And yeah, let's start there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny because my background is very much in marketing. I started as a sports writer. While I was in college, I worked for 2+ years as a sports reporter for the Bellingham Herald. You know, I worked just enough during the time that I was going to school that they didn't have to pay me benefits and, you know, all that stuff. And then decided that I did not want to go work an overnight shift on the sports desk, like the Pendleton Register or something, you know, crazy like that, the Wenatchee World.
You could cover the roundup.
I went into the world of PR. And so through PR, first at the Seattle Chamber of Commerce, and then I worked for a local PR agency and got into the sort of the marketing arena through that. But, you know, all through everything that I've done, the titles have changed, my industries have changed, but the job has been almost the same all the way through, which is creatively finding ways to either help the organization that I work for or to help the clients that I'm working on behalf of to creatively find new channels of revenue, to open new doors, to tell their story better. I mean, just sort of all of that stuff. And print was always a big piece of that. I worked for the parent company for the Puget Sound Business Journal for almost 6 years. And when I was very young, and I launched a publication on the East Side called the East Side Business Journal that essentially competed against PSBJ in that corner of the world. And it was very much a PR marketing job. Trying to, you know, find a way to compete against PSBJ was really fun. But I was also then doing things like press checks at, you know, 1 a.m. for the paper that was going to get mailed the next day. So I learned between the newspaper world and then also the jobs that we did for clients, I learned quite a bit about printing. And then I spent 10 years working in the gift industry, but I worked for a social stationery company. So most of our products, they're journals, notebooks, gift books, greeting cards, things of that nature. So most all of our products were printed. And yes. So, you know, very familiar with the paper side of things. And then when I left that, I took a flyer on a startup in the industry that didn't work out and was out on the hunt for a job and ended up going to work as the head of sales for a sort of a mid-sized local print company. And that's totally serendipitous, very much by accident, but that's kind of where I've been for the last, 8-9 years. So
nice.
There you go.
Nice. Well, there's got to be a reason why you seem to know everybody. So you were born here.
I was born here. I think the combination of a couple things, Laura. I went to high school with a lot of people who ended up kind of moving on and have done very cool things in their professional careers and have sort of stayed in touch with some of them.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Bishop Blanchette
Oh, exactly. Okay,
up by Green
gotcha.
Lake. Yep. And
Yeah.
so, I learned a ton and got to meet a lot of really, really cool people and see who the movers and shakers of the city were when I was at the Seattle Chamber of Commerce. So I worked there for 3 years in their communications department. And I got to know personally and even get to be friends with Jack Ferris, who now is best known as Annis Ferris's dad, but he used to run Cole and Weber in Seattle. And,
Yes.
Harold Carr, who was the VP of communications for the Boeing company. I'd run into him at Mariners games long after he retired, and he's like, "Oh, Michael, how are you?" So you
Wow,
kind
love
of
it.
got to know who the players were, and then obviously working at the Business Journal and for the Business Journal, you are pretty plugged in. And I've also had the benefit, to be fair, of my dad was the 25-year publisher for PSBJ, and so I've gotten a lot of doors open to me from my dad's connections. So benefits there. And then, working in the PR world, I worked for a really amazing woman named Pat Ferry, and everybody knows Pat Ferry. And so, between Pat and my dad
So
and
you
the
were at the
chamber
Fury
world,
Group. Okay.
yeah, I was early days when Pat was
Early
still
days.
running it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow, that is impressive background. And your dad too. Wow. Yeah. I did not know that. So, Michael, tell me, what are you doing to try to get these, in addition to getting them to come together?
Yeah.
Because we do paid media here, and I know we incorporate print pieces every so often into our campaigns and customer funnels to try to and we incorporate digital with that. Is that something you're trying to do with these? Is kind of bring some of these print shops into having more in-house capabilities or more offerings?
Yeah, I would say yes is a short answer. I think that the biggest piece of it is, I call it swimming upstream. I think one of the challenges, and you and I have even talked about this, Laura, is one of my frustrations working in the print world on the business development side is that
Yeah.
a lot of printers are very tactical and they're very good at getting their fingernails dirty with ink. But being able to do more than just sit and wait for, how do you solve this very specific print problem? I've already figured out exactly what I'm going to do. Sort of leaves you at the very bottom of the funnel with very little opportunity to truly impact or affect what the results are. All you can
Right.
really do is, hey, we can make it pretty like most other printers can, and we'll get your project done on time and on budget. Great. But the bar at that point is pretty low. So one of the things is being able to be a true resource to your clients forces you to have something to say to them besides like, hey, I'll bring by some paper samples, right?
Right. How can I make your business grow? How can I, those sorts of things you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like,
And when they don't think of you that way, so one of the big pieces is there's a lot of data components that
mm,
drive good mailing projects. And obviously you have to be able to do printing to do mailing. But I would sort of say that the options available to most marketers in both an integrated, digital and print fashion in terms of understanding what those capabilities are is
mm-hmm.
not very well known still. But I would also say that that's something that they might hear from their agency, or they might hear from their media buyer like
Mm-hmm.
yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but usually they don't get good advice from their print service provider. And so that's on us as an industry, for shame on us for being 100% tactical and not enough focused on what the results actually could be, but not selling to the what if possibilities, because there's a lot of them. And so, yeah, so that's a real goal of mine, is to not only, get out and talk in the market about those opportunities to the types of companies that should be having those discussions, frankly, may or may not be having those discussions with their current print provider. But a big piece of the job is to actually help maybe be the conduit for our existing account teams with our current clients, because our clients in most situations, and I said this at other printers that I've worked, but they usually don't know what you can do. They only know what you do for them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in our case, the big chunk of it is, it's like, hey, gosh, we have been doing the same thing over and over again, only for these clients, for this
Yep.
client for the last 8 years. And it's amazing. And it's great that they've got that. And when they have to order business cards, they think of us. Have we ever really gone back out to them and said, hey, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing relative to driving lead generation for your sales team. Do you have a sales team? How many salespeople do you have? How are you generating leads for them? Do you do trade shows? Just sort of the basic 101. Yeah. But that's a piece of, I think, an opportunity for, the right print folks. And it's not that there's not people doing that, but I would say as a general rule, most of them are on the receiving side and very reactive versus proactive in terms of driving what their clients could and should be maybe doing with their marketing dollars versus just, yes, we can execute on what you're giving to us.
Yeah. So it's really, really just one little piece of a campaign. And they're just like, call us when you need that piece.
Yep. It's and I'd say sometimes it's formulaic. And it's nobody's fault. I guess it is the fault of the print service provider. If you're not going back to them and saying, hey, I saw that you're launching this new product, right? What are you doing on that front? And, we've got some ideas. Can we come and have a meeting to discuss what those ideas might be? But usually print folks don't sell by ideas. They are very focused on what it is that their clients are driving. So that's kind of an area where I think that I would like, and I do tend to like what I'm doing a lot more when I'm having those kind of conversations and getting invited to meetings where somebody is saying, hey, we've got this meeting and you had talked about this thing. Could you come and talk to the rest of my team and my management about this? Because I don't have enough background information to be smart about it, but I think it maybe is something that we need. That to me is a much more fun conversation than what's the best way to print this business card or this brochure,
Yeah.
One question that we hear quite a lot from our clients about printed materials, although frankly also digital out-of-home and connected TV, is around the inclusion of QR codes in their strategy. And I was wondering if you had an opinion on that.
Yeah, so there's, I think that there's a lot of people that are starting to do that. And between what's called, PURLs, personal URLs, so you can do, if you're mailing to 5,000 people, you can have 5,000 different personal URLs and they drive to a landing page, right? So there's a company that works with a lot of printers around the country that's a software company out of San Diego called Mindfire, and a lot of printers that do a lot of really integrated direct marketing work with Mindfire, because they'll take your data and they'll generate the landing pages and they'll generate the QR codes and things that you're going to put into your campaign. And there's a measurement tracking spreadsheet or like a digital dashboard that they give you so you can sort of see what's going on. And I think for a lot of people when they're doing mailing, their concern is like, did it actually get to the people? Because I only heard from a couple of people and I thought I'd hear from a lot more and maybe it didn't get to them. And so being able to have some sort of trackability, and there's USPS products that they offered to do that, that work to varying different degrees. But the reality is it's really about creating the right campaign so that you get the right results. And you're spending less of your energy figuring out, what do we get out to people and did it get out to them? And you're really more tracked on, okay, you know what, the right people are responding and we're getting this kind of response rate. And so, with the personal QR code, for example, if you give somebody a second experience, which is if I go from where that QR code takes me and it takes me to a personal landing page and there's some information that personalizes it for Lisa or Laura or Michael, particularly if you can do it beyond just the name, right? So that's the piece that so many marketers, I think, fall down on is it's like, oh, variable data, I can use your name. It's like, you can say, Laura, we hope that you're enjoying your summer in West Seattle, right? Or, whatever it is. I mean, you've got some data that tells you who that person is. And so that really will drive better response. And so one of the things with print is that there used to be a lot of like junk mail, right? Companies would print 25,000 of the same piece and they would buy a list and they'd send it out and they'd see what happened. And the same offer went out to everybody. And there was no testing. There was no personality to it. There was no one-to-one communication. Today with the, you better
just have some kind of crazy offer that, you had to really everything had to be cut it in half, half price, you know?
Yeah. And and I think you really want to personalize the offer. So if I'm talking to you and you are, the admissions director for a private school, I should have some information based on, hey, we work with, 35 different private schools around the Puget Sound area. And what do I know about what's driving their business, right? And so I can personalize it in some way, shape, or form so that I've got, information that says to them, hey, Lisa, we know as a admissions director for a small private school, these are the things that are probably keeping you up at night. And, blah, 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 blah. And you can even personalize it down to obviously the name of the school, the location of it, but some other variable factors, including photography. Right. So all of these things are available today because so many of these things have moved from offset printing, which is where you have to ink it and, plate it and do all the setup cost. And you really, if you do less than 1,000 pieces, you're wasting money. Right. And so in today's world, because of digital technology, you can do one. And really, there's some setup cost, but it's really viable to say, hey, listen, these are the 25 people we want to reach. And we're going to come up with a tailored, yes, maybe the media is the same, but there's going to be a ton of different elements of variable elements in that. That's provided because of digital technology today. So those are some things that I think are driving the ability to use QR codes, because then you can send them to an online experience and further that and, get some additional data from them. Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing that people are doing that seems to be working is if you've got, abandons, for example, if I go to that page and then I don't end up actually filling it out, I can get notified and, we know that they went to that based on their IP address.
Right.
We can actually send them a different mailing saying, hey, Laura, thanks for, your interest.
Checking us out. Yeah.
Yes, we thought we'd give you this little push to get over the edge because it might be an important, thing. And so what if we did this? And so you can make an offer that's unique to that person, right? And so those are some interesting things that mail in particular, but that print allows in today's world that frankly not enough marketers are taking advantage of from what I see.
I know. Yeah. See, we focus so much on like digital paid media, but this is another solution that is really relevant.
I think, Laura, to your point, they go well together because how you and I have talked about it before, how tailored your digital messaging can be, right? So I know that you are in this address and I'm going to send these messages to, including for television, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to
streaming
send
TV.
That. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with that. Now, if you think about the fact that, everybody's like, well, I never look at my mail, but that's actually not really true. And
now we know it because we can see these QR codes.
Yep. And the amount of response rate on mailing since COVID has actually gone up, in part because there are fewer things in your mailbox, and in part because if you send somebody something that actually is somewhat interesting, right? You can't just send them crap. But if you send them something, they're at least going to look at it before they put it in the pile to recycle, which is better than a lot of emails are going to get in today's world, right? And so, you get the opportunity to, maybe even be kept. So somebody like my wife will leave things for me from the mail that she thinks I might want to look at. And sometimes they're actually marketing pieces.
Yeah.
So there's interesting value there. So you get that, and it goes to what I'm seeing online when I'm online, and what I'm seeing in television. All of a sudden I'm getting hit with 5 or 6 different media. In some ways, it really starts to feel like I don't remember where I saw that, but I'm telling somebody, oh gosh, I saw this, and I don't remember whether I saw it on TV. I don't remember whether I saw it in printed piece. I don't remember if I saw it online, but I know that this is what it is. And so part of it is, yes, every marketer wants to be able to say, I got this person to come and respond because of this paid media, right? Whether it was print or whether it was, an ad on television. But what they really want them to do is, you really want to, instead of measuring just response, what you really want is like, I spent so many dollars on my marketing and I need to get this many dollars back in terms of new business or growth of business, and paying attention to that metric is a really, really important thing that sometimes we lose sight of when we're talking to clients, and sometimes marketing directors really lose sight of that.
Yeah, we so often are talking about that last touch attribution point that Google Analytics loves to focus on, but
Sure.
that's not really the most important one. It's just the one that Google gets to assign itself.
Well, it's kind of funny because, again, coming out of the newspaper world, and things have changed so much through the years, but for a long time, I mean, daily newspapers made a big chunk of their money from all of the auto dealers. I mean, so a guy that I went to college with, who he runs Dwayne Lane dealerships now. His dad was Dwayne, and Tom is really active in the industry. I remember having lunch with him a couple of years ago, and he was saying, he goes, "Oh my gosh, I wish I could not do, the print ads and stuff like that." But he goes, "Because I know that what's driving somebody's decision making is the advertising that we're doing on television at the brand level. It's the magazine ads that they see that are like forming their opinion about, like, this is the kind of car I want to pay attention to."
Seeing it in a show or a video game or wherever.
And he's like, but they walk in and they're like, "This is the car that I want." And they have the ad. And so it's direct response because of that. And that's true. But the reality is, the only reason that they paid attention to that one particular offer that got them to, yes, it got them to get onto the lot, but they were forming an opinion and working out what they wanted to do long before then. And only one media is getting credit for that.
Exactly.
So that's the Google challenge, I think, that, historically has been the case. And I'm super excited about tomorrow night, Laura, because I think that that's changing. Right.
Yes,
I mean, and
it is.
I don't know how it's changing, but by golly, most of my search today is like, I just go to Chat GPT.
Yeah, I think that is what it's going to be.
And
we are definitely going there. Well, Gemini is doing a good job on Google as well, which is their AI, but it is going that direction 100%. It doesn't matter if it's Google or Chat.
Right. And as searchers, I think that that's actually a liability. Right. Which is when you have just a few, all that data gets congealed. And so, you're not going to have as many people putting as many things out there. There's not as many options for people when they're researching. And it really all comes back to, and I use Gemini a lot too. And I'll be honest, it's somewhat laziness. It's like, hey, I just wanted an answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely, what I love about, and Gemini, it's just gotten better but I'm a Chat GPT, like GPT person. Like, that is where I go, because I like the video. I like to be able to, and I know you can do this with Gemini now too, but just the voice to text and just saying, and just the scenarios. Now I'm thinking about doing this and blah, blah. And I don't get a bunch of shopping. I get a bunch of, well, you want to take these steps and you want to think about it this way. And can you offer some products that would fit my specs? And yes, they give me a list of, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much more time saving. I mean, it solves all of our problems.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it feels a little bit like what, DVRs did to television advertising, right? I mean, my wife cannot stand having to, if she has to sit through a program where we, have to watch commercials. She's like, oh,
no, totally,
driving me nuts. I'm like, hon, somebody's got to pay for it. But so that, again,
I know.
I sort of throw in as a reminder on that, which is, it's like, and then there's still print, and print is humongous. I've wanted for a long time to do this video series that I would post to my LinkedIn about, like, talking to a friend about, like, oh gosh, isn't print dead? No, print's not dead. And, like, you just walk down the street and you're like, print. Oh, I'm in the grocery store, print. It's like everything is still, I mean, it is still vibrant. It's just not, people don't do
the only way. It's just not the only way.
Right.
It's what, now everything's just fragmented, and we have just a ton more ways of getting that information out. But that doesn't change the fact that it's still important to see that, in not on the screen.
Right. And there's a lot of statistics and a lot of research done about, the value of kinesthetic elements.
Yeah.
Right? If you actually are touching something, your recall over the long term is much longer than if you're just hearing it on audio, or you're just seeing it online or in print. So,
yep. I love this. No, you gave us a lot of tidbits. There's a lot of things I didn't know, a lot of morsels I didn't know. So,
well, the only thing I would throw in there is going back to, like, everything comes down to data, right? And so the conversations that you're having with your clients, that I should be having with my clients are, okay, where is your data? Right. I mean, I had, breakfast with a mutual friend of ours who's at the Port of Seattle, and she's struggling with trying to, there's all these different data silos, right? So it's like, what are you doing with that data? How relational is that data? And I would say that I would encourage marketers to spend more time planning based on what data they are seeing and making sure that they have the data that gives them the idea of saying, this is what we should be doing, or we should be messaging A, B, and C, because look at how many of our clients, they used to buy this all the time and they haven't bought it in over 2 years. I mean, just something as simple as that, right? I mean, it's amazing how many companies see their customers walk out the back door and there's no alarm bells that go off, and they don't have it in their CRM system that, like, you're sending me a trigger saying this person hasn't ordered in 6 months and they used to order every month. I mean, whatever it is.
Yes.
So those are all things that you can, apply to your media campaign planning. You can apply to your print campaign planning, and being able to identify what are those variable items with your data, so that when you're actually doing a mailing campaign, for example, have a conversation about what you should be doing in your creative to get to where you need to be with that. Because there's something called the 40-40-20 rule, which is 40% of your response in direct mail is going to be the result of the list that you're sending to. And I would sort of integrate into that also, not just the list of, is it accurate? Is it clear? Is it somebody that might want to buy from you? But also, if it's an existing customer list, like, what's the data that you're using in your variable, messaging to that person, right? So that would be 40% of it is going to be the offer or the call to action. And so, being very smart about what do you want to achieve, right? So don't go into it going, hey, we really need to do some mailing and add that to our marketing mix. And no, that's not a great use of your money. Let's figure out what you want to be doing. And 20% of it is actually only the creative, which is crazy. But,
no, I mean, it's what's in it for that person.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
So,
but, being able to then use that 20% properly, because poor creative is not going to get you where you need to go. And you can have the best data and you can have a great offer. And if somebody is not interested in the packaging that you send it in, you're done. So, just understanding all of those as marketers is really kind of key, I think.
I did not know those percentages, but it obviously makes perfect sense. I agree. I mean, I think about that and, like, what are they collecting from their current customers and, that they can learn from versus just the basic, hey, I have to call you back to set an appointment or whatever we're doing.
Yeah. And I'm a white paper junkie, it's just like people hate those people, but I've got like this huge data file of things that I'll read, like when I'm on the bus, if I'm taking the bus, or if I'm doing something on a Saturday morning. But, it's amazing how much attention gets paid to new customer acquisition, but really what customers should be spending. And this goes to my job right now at 12 Points, which is, we have this entire base of customers that's 1,800 strong between all of the companies. Somebody that knows us, they didn't, in almost any case, they didn't fire us because we made a mistake. They just either they went somewhere else, they stopped doing it. It's inertia, right? And so you get back to them and they're like, oh yeah, I remember you guys. I mean, that warmth right there is big. But if, going back to what I was saying, like some sort of trigger, it's like, hey, gosh, Laura, you used to order all the time, and we've noticed that you haven't been ordering over the last 8 months. We'd love to find out what we could do to get you to order again. That personal touch, whether it's by a phone call or whether it's an email or whether it's, in your case, even a television ad, right? I mean, but whatever it is, and it's personalized to me, I'm going to pay attention to it because I actually know that they knew that I didn't order.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's something interesting about feeling like somebody actually cared. And so that's the piece that I think is really important. Like, I'm paying attention to it for us in the marketing aspect of my job. But I think that that's a piece that a lot of organizations, even big companies, fail to remember. Is it's like, you're so attuned to lead generation, which is really important, but look at how many things are flowing out the back that you're just losing. Anyhow,
mining your own data.
Yeah, that's right. Your data is the best information about what you should be doing, I think.
Yeah, agree. Well, thank you so much, Michael Flynn, for joining us today. I think, Lisa, you have one more question for Michael.
Yeah, before we let you go, if you could go back in time and tell yourself at the beginning of your career one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think I've got a lot of advice for my young self. and my poor sons kind of hear it from me sometimes now. But
yeah, learn from my mistakes, kids. Oh,
I mean, yes. I think the biggest thing is I pursued what was interesting to me. And I don't regret it. I've gotten to do some pretty cool things. And like I said, almost all of my jobs really were sort of the same. They just kind of took on a different form. But I would say, and one of the things that I've shared with my sons is, you should manage your career. Figure out what you really want to do and figure out what really kind of lights your fire, and be intentional about the jobs that you do take and don't take. Right. So I sort of always took a job because it was usually like, oh, somebody wants me and it's more money, a little bit more money. And yeah, this would be cool. And, sometimes it was the right thing. And sometimes I should have been more intentional about what I was doing. That would be my one advice, for myself, which was maybe pay really careful attention to how you roadmap what your career looks like. Because by the time that you get to be over 50, you're sometimes in a place where you're like, oh my gosh, maybe I really wanted to be an architect, but it's too late to be an architect.
No, totally. I ended up, working at an agency for media buying for 20 years. Next thing you know, you take this one job and then 20 years later, you're doing paid media. But I went to school for copywriting, and that's in my heart too. Yeah. Right. Like, and I still naturally think that way. I'm not going to make a huge change and be this, I just do it for the clients that are doing media buys.
Right.
But it's just interesting because it was just a job at the time, in my career field.
Yeah.
I just got to get a job in my field.
Right.
And so I, did that. And then, 1,000 years later, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If there's no choice. That's what you're doing.
By the way, Lisa, it's not that I don't give advice to my daughter, but she knew early on that she wanted to be in nursing. And so she's done great. She's gone back to school at Johns Hopkins to become a nurse practitioner.
Awesome.
But that's a great example of managing, she knows exactly what she wants to do. And she's now paying attention to the world of healthcare around her, and not just, the specifics of it. It's
right.
You got to know the big picture and not just the small details. So
I get that. I think of that as a singer too. Don't just sing any, songs can sing you if you're not good. So a job can work you if you're not, you need to be selective of your job. Otherwise you're reacting to it and going, oh, I'll never, yeah.
Right.
Lisa and I do karaoke enough to know I shouldn't have done that song.
Bail.
That song is singing me. I'm not singing it.
My range is pretty bad in karaoke. So the next time we go, there's about 6 songs that I'll sing.
Okay. Okay. My question, what's your go-to?
Well, it fits my voice. So Friends in Low Places is kind of my go-to.
It's such a good song. It's one of my all-time favorite country songs. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now that'll be in my head for the rest of the day, which is okay.
It's all right. Well, this was a lot of fun, Laura. Thanks. I appreciate it. And Lisa, nice to get to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Michael. And you can find Michael on LinkedIn. Michael, where can I find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's really the one social media that I'm active on. So.
Okay. So you can find Michael on LinkedIn. We'll leave his link in the description.
All right. Thanks. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the Paid Media Playbook. Want more content like this? Follow our agency, Double Z Media, on LinkedIn. You can find the link in the episode description.